Joink. Beep, beep. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this thing that we like to call Movie Mondays with Matt Plus on the Movie Mondays with Matt Plus app or the Northern News Now Plus app. I'm your host, whether you like it or not, Matt Rasmussen, a.k.a. the King of Halloween, a.k.a. Morning Show Director here, a.k.a. Local filmmaker, and a.k.a. host of Movie Mondays with Matt. Here, let me make a quick adjustment here. That was going to be bothersome. I couldn't imagine wearing that the whole time, actually. I was suffocating in that thing. There we go. Let's do this. I was wearing this hat this morning. This is my detective hat. It was a big mystery theme. We'll just stick with this so I don't have to suffocate. Okay, so let's start all over again. I'm Matt, host of Movie Mondays with Matt Plus. So today, my flick of the week was Faces of Death, the new 2026 version of Faces of Death. Very different than anything you may have heard of with the originals. So we're going to dig into that a little bit as well and what makes it stand apart. And we're going to recap the box office figures as well. So let's take a quick look at the box office figures. Let's do that first and just get it on out of the way here. Where is it? Just a second. There it is. There we go. We're going to start with number 5, Hoppers, which topped $157 million domestically with a fifth place weekend worth $4.1 million. Then number 4, the rom-com You, Me, and Tuscany debuted in fourth place, earning $8.8 million. Then the drama, number 3, stayed in third place, adding $8.7 million. Then Project Hail Mary. Everyone loves this one. It passed the $250 million mark domestically, ranking up $24.6 million for second place. And lastly, a gigantic win for the Super Mario Galaxy movie. This animated sequel made another $69 million for a domestic total of $308 million and a global tally of $629 million. And I just checked this morning, this is right now the third highest grossing video game movie of all time. How crazy is that? And at number 1 is Mario movie, the first one from 3 years ago. How cool is that? So let's just go back to cam here. Joink. Okay, that's our box office numbers. So we're going to talk a little bit about Faces of Death here today, the 2026 version. We're not going to get heavy into any of the originals, as those are shockumentaries, and really there's not much content to them. And if you're looking for something shocking and crazy here on this episode, that's not what's going to be happening today. So you can go elsewhere if you want to see gruesome videos of such things. We're going to be talking more about what sets apart this remake from the originals. And it's very different, I'll say that out of the gate. Before we get heavy into it, just want to look at my decorations I brought in. I cobbled some stuff together here for just to kind of dress up the set a little bit, as our monitors are still dead here, so there's nothing to feed in. So I figured I'd double down on, like, you know, I'm a visual storyteller. I want to show you something fun to look at while I'm just droning on endlessly. So hopefully you don't find any of my cute little skeleton plushies and toys disrespectful when we're talking about Faces of Death, but we're not going to be talking about anything heavy. No real death, none of that stuff. It's all fictionalized. Everything about these movies is fictionalized, especially the reboot, which really the thing that sets this reboot apart is it's a scripted, like, crime thriller, kind of, versus the originals that were thrown out there with the guise that they were all real and everything that you were seeing was real. And this one, it takes a very different approach. I watched the trailers for this original one and already could tell that something was different. And first impressions, there's nothing in this 2026 version that is overtly grotesque or disgusting or anything that you want to turn away from. And it's very up to date. That's another thing that really shocked me about this. It is all about like content creation and wanting to become a viral star and getting likes and subs and doing what you can to get your name out there. It leans into voyeurism a little bit, and then it is meta in that it references the original Faces of Death, where that is a plot point. So before we get any further into this, solid warning for anybody watching: spoilers ahead. If you don't want this new Faces of Death spoiled for you, please turn back now. I'll give you a second to disconnect. Okay, so let's get into the nitty-gritty of the 2026 Faces of Death. Well, like I said, it's like a crime thriller, really. It has a slasher element to it, and it has a couple of named actors in it. For the life of me, I cannot pronounce the name of the actor that plays the slasher. He did a really good job. He's in Stranger Things. He's the guy that played Max's older brother. And he was like the lead villain in the 3rd season with all the rats and stuff. He did such an amazing job in this. Like, I was shocked. He does kind of like a Patrick Bateman-esque, where he's very particular. He's very specific about what he's doing. And he's very type A. He's very clean. So to be getting into the type of work that he's in, he's kind of grossed out by the whole thing, actually, which is funny considering this franchise. So he, how do we describe him otherwise? He's kind of like a Jared Leto type. I got a lot of Jared Leto vibes from this new slasher, and so that's what this new movie is. It's been turned into a slasher franchise reboot that is meta as well. And so here's where the meta parts come in. This slasher is a fan of the original Faces of Death that came out in 1978. And his whole thing is he's recreating scenes from Faces of Death in order to become a viral star. And he wants followers and all of that. He doesn't want anyone to know who he is, but he just lives for people subscribing and talking about what he's doing online. And he's actively stalking anyone online who's talking about what he's doing, and he's just eating it up. He has connections where he works at like an AT&T or one of these, he works at a cell phone place, and so he's able to hack around and figure out who people are, specifically the girl who's on to him. And it's a little bit of a cat and mouse game of him trying to track her down, because his whole thing is when he makes these viral videos, he targets very specific people, and they're usually like people who are already viral stars. And our female lead is one of those viral stars, but not in a way that she wants to be. She was in a viral video that years ago had come out where there was a train accident and it took her sister's life. And it's one of those, like, forbidden videos on the internet that people whisper about. And she constantly is spotted in public, and she doesn't like anything to do with it. And in turn, she thought maybe she can help to clean up the internet. So she goes out and gets a job at one of these companies where when you see a viral video that's disturbing and it's flagged, she's one of the people who will review it and decide if it needs to be taken down or not. And that's how she decides she's going to help to give back, so that it's all for something at least. That's where she comes across this first Faces of Death video. And anyone who knows the original series, you can already figure out what this is, because they use the actual audio from the original Faces of Death, and there's a specific scene that this guy is recreating, but it's all new. He has mannequins set up, and it's a whole thing, and the participant is unwilling in this thing. And again, like, how it's done, none of it feels real, and none of it feels particularly like disturbing. It's just like it's a crime thriller, and that's what we're watching. And it doesn't feel viral like the original does, which they call this original the original viral video, which is true. But we'll get a little bit more maybe into the originals in a bit. So this female lead, she tracks down, she figures out who this guy is in a sense, and he figures out who she is in a sense, and their paths cross. And she's trying to stop him, he's trying to stop her. It's a fun little cat and mouse game. And really, I thought this thriller was pretty well crafted for being something so different from the source material. I thought they did a really good job with it. And it's something that you can watch and enjoy. And you don't have to know anything about the original Faces of Death movies to enjoy this one. If you're familiar with, at least have heard of some of the things that happened in the original, it'll help, because this guy recreates a few of those scenes, and he uses the exact narration from it. They don't get into any of the sequels, which is fine. So, what else happens in this movie? Also, Charlie XCX is in this movie. You might remember her. She's a big pop star. The thing I know her from is she provided some music for the Goosebumps movie in 2015. She provided that trailer music. Really, really fun movie, that Goosebumps movie. I love that a lot. And so she's in it as one of the viral stars that is taken by this slasher. And there's a few other people that he takes, and it's just kind of a matter of time. They're trying to stop this guy. She's trying to stop this guy. The police aren't really useful at all in this movie. In fact, one of the little gripes I had about this movie, more spoilers coming right now, he kidnaps the female lead, and she's able to actually escape. And she immediately gets outside, and she's all beaten up and bloody and bruised, and she's able to get in touch with the police, leads the police right back to this house where he still has captives. And she's like, help, this guy kidnapped me, he's got captives in there, he's the crazy viral guy. And the cops just kind of act like ho-hum, no big deal. And they actually turn it around and make him the victim and her the villain. And it was one of those plot points I didn't agree with. It did not make sense to me. And that was the first time in this entire movie that I was like, I'm not buying that storyline at all. I am not buying that at all. I just don't think that would happen in a real world situation. I know they were trying to prove a point with that little part, but no, I wasn't sucked in by that. And there was one other small part that it wasn't quite getting me with, but I appreciate it. Well, the whole climactical part, most of it was really good. So what happens is she comes back to face him because the cops just let him go and said, whatever, it's no big deal. And he wants her to come back because she took all of his footage, and like that's precious to him, and it's proof and all that stuff. So he's like, you come back, give me my footage. And then she comes back, and then he's got a little trap plan for her, and she has a little trap plan for him, and there's a struggle. And then kind of how the events unfolded during the struggle, it was okay. The end result also was okay, where she overpowers him, takes him down, and then she's filming the whole time, and then uploads that footage as his final like viral video, and then everyone's reacting to it, and oh wow, this and that, and that's how it ends. And I was kind of on board with how it ended, like what kind of led up to this whole climactical part. I needed a little bit of work. But overall, I thought the performances were amazing. The directing was amazing. There are things in this movie I had not seen done. There was a part where we do everything in a long take, and I love when filmmakers can do this. We show the inside of the female lead's house, and she's getting ready for bed, and then we pan outside, and then the killer is out there in his car, and he gets out, and then we're following him. And it follows him all the way. He's going around, he goes inside the place, he's going up the stairs, he's going to get her, and we're on him the whole time. And then it pans back into her place in real time, shows what she's doing, what the roommate's doing, pans back, shows the killer. And it was like so beautifully done. I hadn't seen something done like that, and something like this that some might just dismiss as some kind of smut. I thought that was brilliant. And they do little things like that that really impressed me. So the directing was great. Overall, I liked the writing. The editing was good. The performances were amazing. The music was amazing. Charlie XCX provides some of this music. And from the jump, the first thing you hear is the score starting when the titles are beginning. And all you hear is the music. And it's immediately unsettling. And I think it was the perfect vibe. It had a throwback vibe to the original, and it had kind of a grainy, almost staticky kind of sound, as though, you know, it's playing into viral videos and that. And I don't know, I thought the score was really well done, and it never lets up, and it added a lot to this movie. I liked most everything about this movie. It's a shame that it only opened in number 7. It was not in the top 5 this week. Number 6 was like some boy band movie. I don't know, One Direction or one of those. And then this was 7. But I've heard some decent things about this new Faces of Death movie. You know, a lot of people like me went into it with different expectations and were surprised when we got a totally different experience out of it that was a really good one. I would recommend this movie, honestly. I would say please go check it out. I'm surprised that they rebooted Faces of Death. Maybe we can go into this part now. We'll talk a little bit about the original Faces of Death. I can't believe they rebooted this series, because if you're aware of the aura surrounding this series, it's smut. It's a collection of scenes that are graphic and not even terrifying, just gross, and it's all by design. The main thing about these original Faces of Death movies is they're not real. There might be 1 or 2 shots of something real that happened that's mixed in, but overall these movies are staged, all of them. And that was always the plan from the jump, although they pretended that these movies were real. And that everything you were seeing unfolded like a found footage type of situation. Usually it's like, oh, a news camera, you know, a crew is on scene and something is happening that ends horrifically, and it's just a collection of scenes like that. And there is a wraparound portion where you have a guy who comes out and he's narrating, and he's just talking about, you know, he's kind of cushioning the blow of what you're seeing, and he's like, oh, life is precious and we should appreciate this and that, and then he'll go right into another horrific segment. And that's what these movies are known for. These movies, they're known as rite of passage movies. Growing up in the 80s and 90s, I had always heard tell of these Faces of Death movies. And, you know, it's kind of the thing that you had to do was check this out and see what it's all about. Let me tell you this, though. Let me give you a solid warning that I would not recommend watching any of these original Faces of Death movies. I would not recommend it. Even though they're fake, and what you're seeing is fake, it's still unsettling, and it's still gruesome. And the big thing about these movies that I would strongly suggest against watching is because once you watch these movies, you cannot unwatch these movies. These images, no matter how real or fake they are, they're startling and they can stick with you. I was like a little preteen when I saw some of these movies originally. Those images are stuck with me. They're not going to go anywhere, and there's no changing that. So that's my solid warning to you. A lot of my friends that I knew, we all watched these as preteens. I first watched one of my first Faces of Death movies way back in the day. I was in the 90s. I was definitely a preteen. It might have been 11 or 12, and my brothers brought one home and threw it on, and I did not know what I was getting myself into. Luckily, it was Faces of Death 2 that was brought home, and that is a very mild one. That one was very rushed out to just kind of capitalize on the name. And by part 2, you can kind of tell that some of the segments are staged. I couldn't, little 12-year-old me could not tell, and we all lived under that guise that all these movies were real. So there are 4 official installments in this franchise. The first one came out in 1978 and just kind of broke the world. It became the first viral video, really. It screened all around the world, and it was banned in dozens of countries, understandably so. And some places had many heavy edits that it needed to undergo. Yeah, these movies are not for the faint of heart. So then they did part 2, which again was kind of rushed. Part 3, and then they did a compilation video after that. And the guy who played the narrator bowed out after part 3. He's like, I can't do this anymore. I don't want to be known as the face of these movies. So he bowed out, and they got a new guy to come in and narrate the best of. It's called The Worst of Faces of Death. And then Faces of Death 4 came out in 1990. That was the end of the series officially. Although they still were viral hits and were just raking in money with the home video sales. And you look at the box cover art, and it says banned in all these countries and do not watch this. Solid disclaimer all over it. And that gets a preteen excited, like, ooh, what is this forbidden movie that I can't watch? So that was the allure of these movies. So they kept that going, even though 4 was the end. They recycled footage for 5, recycled footage again for 6, and then there were some unofficial ones that had nothing to do with that original creative team, and then there were some international ones, and they kept tacking on numbers to it. Then there were rip-off ones like Traces of Death and Faces of Death the Millennium and death scenes and all kinds of stuff. And a lot of imitators, and that is all smut as far as I'm concerned. These are the worst movies you can watch legally. That were packaged together, specifically designed to sell and put out there on the mass market. This is the worst. I would not recommend it, once again, because these are images that will stick with you. And then Faces of Death ran its course, and there was even it started to come out that it was staged. People started to figure it out, like each installment had a more difficult time hiding the fact that it was fake. There was this Faces of Death fact or fiction documentary that came out, and that kind of muddied the waters a little bit. But then they officially, in the 2000s, announced that yes, this was all fake, and here's how we did it, and do, and that all came out. And some people weren't too happy about that, but I'm glad to know that a lot of what I saw growing up was fake. So, I think that is your Faces of Death recap as far as the originals go. I'm glad that they rebooted this. I'm surprised that they did, but I really, really enjoyed this new take on it. I thought it was great. I wouldn't even mind a sequel to this one. I thought the performances were great, and that specific killer was great. Everyone did a really good job with it. So, what more can be said about this franchise? Not much more. I think I've said my piece on all of them, including the reboot. Before we go, I want to just recap my weekend a little bit and just give you a slightly lighter thing to look at here. So let's pop this up. Joink. So here is a little bit of how I spent my weekend. This was the Peeps art contest that was held this weekend in Superior at the public library there. I was asked to come aboard and be one of the celebrity guest judges. And here we go. Here's who I chose to win. I like that little switch. There was the little Mario switch, and here was the adult category. This was the winner, or the group category. There I am on the end there. There's the giant Peep. There's the group of us that all came out. There were some very creative. There we go. There's the big Peep again. It was a very creative group of folks that came out. There were 3 categories: adult, children, and group. And there was some good stuff. Yeah, I'm just don't mind me, just like adjusting my hood here. It's falling all over the place. Okay. So it was a fun time. Gonna go back on cam here. And one last little thing I want to throw out there before we end today. We talked a little bit about Faces of Death, so let's not end on a downer note with death. Let's celebrate life a little bit. I want to wish a happy birthday to my kitty, who is 13 years old today. She is the sweetest little thing. Let me see if I can find the little slideshow I made. Here we are. Here she is. Little Shadow is her name. I call her Shadow because she just follows me everywhere. She is the sweetest little kitty. This is one of the first pictures I took of her when we first got her 13 years ago. This is just her chilling around. She looks upset in this picture, but she is not. Like, she doesn't have a mean bone in her body. She's just a little darling. And here is the most recent picture I took of her. This was last weekend when I was hanging out with the folks for Easter weekend. And there she is, just living life to the fullest. Let's go back on cam. And I recommend that you all live life to the fullest as well. You know, don't have any regrets. Go out there, live your life, do the best you can. Have fun with the time that you have, because you just never know. You just never know. I don't want to be dark here. Something positive to end on. So, have fun with the time that we have. Those are my little words of the wise there. So, enough of all that stuff. Let's, I'll tease ahead to next week a little bit, assuming I'm not canceled after this episode, and then that'll be that. So next week, there's another new horror movie, which is also a reboot that is coming out that I'm excited for. I actually started bringing some of the props in already for it. Kind of excited. I started watching some of the originals of these already this week. I don't know, the trailer looks pretty terrifying for this particular movie, and I hope it's not a disappointment, because some of these others, as of late, have been. I'm not a big reboot guy, but yeah, this one looks worthy. So, that is that. So thank you for tuning in, my friends. Hopefully you got something fun out of this. Hopefully I didn't offend you in any way. Yeah, just go out there and have fun for the rest of the day. Take care, and until next time, stay spooky, my friends.